Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Ray Leary, welcome to the Will to Win show. It's a pleasure to have you on. And from what I've heard, you've had quite a journey. You've gone through a lot of adversity, you experienced institutional abuse, and now you're advocating for political change to help people who have gone through the same kind of experiences. And someone also mentioned to me that you're actually looking to secure a seat in Blacktown for the upcoming state election. Would that be right?
That's right.
And what drove you to take this step? Like, where did the inspiration come from?
For many years now, I've advocated for the terminology that we were given by the New South Wales state government of forgotten Australians. Forgotten Australians are from the 20th century right through to the 2000s. I think the last home actually shut in 1990. And I didn't really get involved in any of it, really. They've had Senate inquiries, they've had apologies, all sorts of things have been going since basically 1994, I think, goes back to the Senate inquiry. I think what people need to know out there is the terminology forgotten Australians is children that were taken away from their parents and put into institutions from a very young age. And we're not talking about 1 or 2 years, we're talking about their whole childhood. Now, if we look at the situation that these children were taken away is there was wars going on, there was poverty, there was depression. From 1930s, we've followed the Child Welfare Act, where so-called child welfare officers could come into the house and, if there wasn't food in the cupboards or the bedding arrangement wasn't good or the sleeping arrangements weren't good, these people could come in and say, you're not doing a good enough job with your children, we're going to take them into care. That's how I see it. And I think for anyone to be able to do that, where does that come from? Where does the government have the party to take away children from their mums, their dads, their siblings? And I just want to add, we're not a part of the stolen generation. We are 500,000 strong adults now, fighting the system to be recognised for the wrong that was done to so many children. Back in the day, children were seen and they were never heard. And now I'd like to push and get us recognised for, one, having a Senate inquiry to all the abuse that went on in foster care and in these institutions. The government needs to be accountable. I alone have 2 prime ministers that have apologised to me. I have had 6 apologies from homes that I was in, and I was supposed to be looked after, loved and nurtured from the age of 8 to the age of 17 and 9 months. And in that whole scenario, all I was really looking for is love. And a lot of us wanted that, but we never ever got it. And the government did not look at any of these places that they were sending these kids to.
And I want to ask you, Ray, what kind of impact did these experiences have on those children?
Well, I can talk about just my family.
Sure.
My mum was put in an institution with a loving sister at a very young age so that her father could go over and fight in the war. Unfortunately, her dad come back from the war and he was shell-shocked. So he didn't remember that he put 2 children into care to be looked after and loved They were put into a Catholic orphanage. My mum was released at the age of 16-year-old. No one to go out to, no one to care for her. And then we go on where she gets married and she has children of her own. And this sort of thing happened to her. She lost 4 children into the system.
That's crazy.
And it wasn't just for, as I said, 1 or 2 years. It was their entire childhood. So there was no affectionate shown towards them in the institutions, but they didn't even get to see their brother. They didn't even get to see their other sisters. You know, it's said time and time again over the years that I've been doing this sort of advocacy that the children were seen and never heard.
Okay, and if the children were never seen and never heard, what would it take for that to happen? For children to have a voice?
Well, what I've seen, what I've heard is a lot of these men and women now are pushing 70s and 80-year-old, okay? I'm now 64-year-old, and we need to be understood of why we were given the terminology forgotten Australians.
And should that change? And if so, what should it change to?
I would love it to change to remembered Australians. Remember the children from the past that fought to get a Senate inquiry in 1994 and then to get a female that was understanding and wanted to listen to what so many people said about the wrongs that was done to them while in state-run institutions and church homes. The change remembered Australians is because they fought long and hard to get a Prime Minister to say, we will have a Royal Commission. I have heard enough and this is enough. So my fight for the seat is to get people, police, ambulance, authorities, get this into the schools where it really needs to be educated on. Experience of going to a hospital and having bowel cancer and being treated like a child when I'm in my 50s.
Yeah, that's crazy.
All right? One staff member actually said to me, because I had an MRI scan, that when I got in so far, I panicked because I was locked under stairwells in institutions and it was dark and it was cold and it was scary. And he said, how old are you? 64? Or are you 10-year-old?
Yeah, it's so disrespectful.
And then he basically asked the nurse, take him back. I can't do this. He's just ruined that film, you know?
And so do you think there's a lack of understanding about this issue and it's not being acknowledged?
It's not being acknowledged enough. As I said, we've been apologised by the big man himself.
Who's the big man?
The Prime Minister.
Which Prime Minister?
Kevin Rudd. The opposition leader, Malcolm Turnbull, gave us this lovely apology. And as I said again, I didn't really get involved in this campaign until in the 90s when I was called to give evidence at the Woods Royal Commission.
And what kind of evidence did you provide?
I provided quite a lot of evidence about institutions, about a social worker that would get given the power and control of me for 5 years of my life to, well, educate me, to be my mentor, to, I don't know, show me the love and affection that I was very rarely getting at home. And the sad part about that is he was a pedophile.
That's crazy.
And over those 5 years, I experienced the other side of life for many, many boys, for many, many little girls that find it very, very hard to be able to say that I am being interfered with in these homes, that I am being raped. You know, who can we tell when you're in these homes, in these institutions? They're supposed to be caring for us. They're supposed to be teaching us the rights and the wrong. You know,
So
I got put away for being exposed to moral danger. Now, very, very important men. We're talking about a barrister. We're talking about a well-known businessman had sex with me, paid for it, and I got no money. All right? We're talking about giving evidence against these two men, and suddenly, years later, when I get brought up to give evidence at the Woods Royal Commission into corruption of the police, suddenly that whole court appearance with 4 victims can't be found. It's just not there. Okay? So I'm taking this stand because I lost my mum, I lost my dad, and they had a story. My brother and my sisters, I didn't really know until they were adults. There's thousands of men and women out there suffering today because our own country doesn't understand our trauma, doesn't understand our pain. They need to listen. They need to listen to what I've got to say, and they need to listen. Why did we have a Royal Commission in 2013 for 5 years and get thousands of men and women of all ages to come and tell their story? You know, don't just shove us back where we were years ago. Do something about it. There's nothing mental about any of the forgotten Australian people. Nothing. We were brought up and we were raised by the state-run institutions. Our trauma is because of our own country not giving us the support and the love, and not supporting our families as well. You know, mum, dad, they haven't got what people have got today.
And having said all this, Ray, if you were to be elected with a seat of Blacktown, what would you change? What would you do about this?
Look, I think the first thing we've got to do is care for the people that are now known as remembered Australians. We are now at the age where we are getting old and we're stepping into aged care. Now, aged care to a lot of people that live on the North Shore is very nice and very good. People that live in the western suburbs, you know, it's going back into trauma. We're going into institutional abuse again because do they know what we're going into as a remembered, forgotten Australian? Do they really know Ray Leary suffers from childhood trauma and abuse from being locked away from his family? The path I'm taking is trying to get authorities and people of the government to understand we want to be remembered. We want to leave this world with a legacy of being remembered Australians.
I see.
And the only way we're going to do that is get someone that can be inside looking on the outside and seeing what's going on there.
I see. Well, it's certainly inspiring to see what you're doing, Ray. And I'm really hopeful that you'll be elected and you have my support. I know you have Sean's support, and hopefully we can get the rest of the Blacktown community to, you know, be a part of this process of getting you elected. So yeah, thank you for being on the show. And is there any final words that you wanted to share about this before we end this episode?
Look, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to come in here and get the voice out again for a lot of people. I don't do this for myself. I do this for a broken-hearted brother that's gone through the system. And I do this for the future of our children. Let everyone out there listen to my words. We have children to love them, to see them go through high school, primary school, to be very knowledgeable about what love and family is all about. Something that the forgotten Australians never, ever experienced. But now there's a voice, and now we have a voice. I'm going to do my very, very best to get our word out that we need to be remembered.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Ray. It's been an honour to have you on the show. Wishing you all the best in your political pursuit to secure a seat.